From ground zero, waiting for the sun, still hasn't shone. Searching across the waters, what's that I see? Could it be the home of the final destroyer? Oh, this side of ground zero, doing time with Stevie and Frank. We share a few laughs between us, maybe our last. It's hard to tell, swimming in highballs on ground zero. Attack of the killer plans from Mars, giving up your life for no. We've got to run from this beach while we can. Don't want to be a dead hero. From ground zero, I can see the sun is coming home. Faced with opposition from mankind, that's not kind. So walking home to the final destroyer. Oh,
is boring. Think again. Agent Angela, are you ready? Choose the right link.
Nirvana, REM, Pearl Jam. all these successful white male bands that dominated the 90s genre called grunge rock. Everybody seems to know them, but most people have never even heard of the beautiful black woman who helped create it, Tina Bell, a rocker from Seattle, the same city where grunge was born. Tina helped usher in the sound that would define a generation. But not only did she not benefit from her creation, she faded, literally, because years later, she died, alone in a quiet Las Vegas apartment, and her body wasn't found until weeks later under mysterious circumstances. And as if that wasn't disturbing enough, her belongings, her lyrics, her recordings were thrown in the trash, just like her legacy. So we have to ask, why'd this happen? Why was she alone? Or who was there with her and left her alone? What happened to the godmother of grunge? Let's talk about Tina Bell. Tina Bell's story is more than a personal tragedy. It's part of a larger pattern in American music, one where Black innovators create sounds that change culture, only to be erased once those sounds become profitable. Rock and roll began with Black artists like Sister Rosetta Tharpe, Chuck Berry, and Little Richard. But history books often give the credit to white acts who came later. That very same thing happened in grunge. Tina Bell was there at the beginning, fronting one of Seattle's first bands to blend punk aggression with heavy distortion and raw emotion. She should be remembered as a pioneer, as the godmother of grunge. Instead, she was harassed off the stage, abandoned by her peers, and left out of the story. But tonight we will hear her story.
Whoa.
What's that?
I just built a budgeting app in Base 44.
Guys, Nina just built a...
Tina Bell was born in Seattle, Washington, February 5th, 1957. She grew up in a working-class family surrounded by music at a young age. Like many Black women of her generation, Tina's early influences were gospel, soul, and R&B, but she also had a wide-ranging ear, and as she got older, she gravitated toward harder sounds, blending her natural powerhouse voice with the raw edge of punk and rock. By the early 1980s, Seattle's music scene was bubbling with experimentation. Bands were mixing punk aggression with heavy metal riffs, searching for a new sound that didn't quite have a name yet. This was the scene Tina stepped into when she formed Bam Bam in 1983 with her husband Thomas McKay Martin. Bam Bam quickly became one of the first bands to lay the groundwork for what would later be known as grunge. Tina was the group's frontwoman, and she wasn't just a singer, she was a force. At only 5'2", her stage presence was big and magnetic, her voice cutting, and her lyrics unapologetic. The band's rough, distorted guitar tones, combined with Tina's soulful yet aggressive delivery, made them stand out even in a crowded local scene. But Tina's position was unusual. In a time when the Seattle underground was almost entirely white and male, she was a Black woman leading a loud, aggressive rock band. This wasn't something the industry or the local audiences knew how to process. To some, she was electrifying. To others, she simply didn't fit the image they wanted for the new sound. Even in their early years, Bam Bam's shows attracted attention, but the focus wasn't always on the music. Instead, Tina's identity often became the conversation. She wasn't allowed to just exist as a frontwoman. She was constantly confronted with racism and misogyny, both subtle and blatant. And over time, those pressures would weigh heavily on her career, her reputation, and her legacy. Being the front woman of Bam Bam should have been a triumph. Tina Bell had the voice, the presence, and the vision. But in the Seattle rock world of the 1980s, she was constantly reminded that she was seen as an outsider. The audiences she performed for were often openly hostile. Tina wasn't just dealing with the usual heckling that comes with underground shows. She faced harassment rooted in racism and misogyny. For many in the crowd, the simple fact that a Black woman was commanding the stage in a rock band was enough to provoke them. She was jeered, insulted, and dismissed before she even opened her mouth to sing. And when she did sing, when her voice filled the room, it still wasn't enough to silence the prejudice. Instead of being recognized for her talent, she was forced to endure the constant undertone of, "You don't belong here." The Seattle scene prided itself on being alternative and progressive. But when it came to Tina, the mask slipped. She wasn't afforded the same freedom of expression that her white male counterparts enjoyed. The hostility reached a breaking point one night during a Bam Bam performance. Two skinheads pushed their way to the front of the crowd, shouting racial slurs at Tina, calling her the N-word as she tried to sing. The abuse wasn't subtle. It was loud, violent, and inescapable. Tina reacted. She wasn't going to stand still and take it. In the middle of the show, she swung her microphone around by the cord like a lasso and cracked the men in the head with it. It was raw, it was furious, and it was self-defense. But instead of being respected for standing up for herself, the incident stuck to her in a different way. From that moment forward, many didn't see Tina Bell as a talented singer-songwriter or a pioneering frontwoman. They saw her as the stereotype they wanted her to be, an angry Black woman. The label overshadowed her artistry, and it followed her wherever she went. This incident wasn't an exception. It was the clearest example of what Tina had been battling all along. The constant policing of her presence, the way her identity was weaponized against her, and the way the scene refused to accept her on her own terms. If the crowds were cruel, Tina might have found some refuge in her band, but even there, the support she deserved never fully came. Instead of standing behind their front woman, Bam Bam often added to her sense of isolation. Some of the hostility was direct. She was treated as though she didn't belong, even inside the group she helped create. Other times, it was silence that cut the deepest. When audiences hurled racist insults at her, her bandmates didn't rush to defend her. They kept playing, letting Tina shoulder the abuse alone. That silence spoke volumes, reinforcing the idea that her pain was hers to carry by herself. And it wasn't only about what happened on stage. Behind the scenes, Tina still couldn't escape the constant reminder that she was different. Within the Seattle music community, supporting Bam Bam openly meant supporting a Black woman fronting a rock band, and many didn't want to be seen doing that. There were people who liked the band, like future grunge legend Kurt Cobain, who was once a roadie for the group. There were some who actually admired Tina's voice and the raw edge she brought to the music, but too often they pretended otherwise. They kept their praise quiet. They didn't want to be associated with her because to them, she didn't fit the mold of what a rock frontwoman was supposed to look like. This quiet betrayal, mixed with the outright mistreatment, left Tina in an impossible position. She had created something original, something powerful, yet the very people around her, the ones who should have been her allies, reinforced the message she was already getting from the outside world, that she didn't belong. By the end of the 1980s, the weight of this reality became unbearable. Tina had carried the brunt of racism, sexism, and erasure for years, and it showed no signs of changing. By 1989, Tina Bell had endured nearly a decade of fighting battles that no artist should have to fight. She had the talent, she had the presence, and she had already proven that her sound could ignite a crowd. But what she didn't have was support, not from the industry, not from the local scene, and not even fully from her own band. Every show carried the risk of harassment. Every rehearsal was colored by the tension of being treated like she was out of place in her own creation. And every step forward seemed to confirm the same message. She wasn't going to be embraced by a world that had already decided she didn't belong. By this time, grunge was starting to build momentum in Seattle. Bands that would go on to define the genre, groups like Soundgarden, who her own drummer Matt Cameron would go play for, Nirvana, and Alice in Chains, were coming up just behind her. Tina was there first, laying groundwork they would all benefit from. But as the scene gained visibility, her contributions were ignored. The group Bam Bam went to Europe in hopes of finding success there, but unfortunately, everything was more of the same. The constant rejection, the racism, the misogyny, the betrayal from within her own circle, it all piled up. In 1990, after the group had to be deported back to America due to an immigration enforcement dragnet in the Netherlands, by the time they came back, Tina had made the decision that she couldn't take it anymore. She quit Bam Bam and walked away from the music industry altogether. Her exit wasn't announced with press releases or headlines. She didn't go out with a farewell performance. She simply stepped back, leaving behind the band and the stage that had been both her platform and her battlefield. After that, Tina disappeared from the music world completely. Her band decided not to replace her, but instead continued as a three-piece instrumental band. In her absence, grunge grew into a cultural phenomenon, but without her name attached in any kind of way. The sound she had helped shape was now fueling careers, record deals, and worldwide tours for others. Tina Bell, meanwhile, had become invisible. After leaving Bam Bam, Tina Bell faded from the public eye. She no longer performed, no longer recorded, and no longer took part in the music scene she helped build. For years, her name was rarely mentioned, even as grunge exploded into a global phenomenon in the early 1990s. Bands that came after her found success, record deals, and international fame. Nirvana, Pearl Jam, and Soundgarden became household names. The Seattle scene was celebrated as a revolutionary force in music, yet the woman who helped lay its foundation was left out of the story. Tina was living quietly, watching the genre she helped shape turn into an industry dominated almost entirely by white men. Her personal life had also fallen apart as well. Her marriage to Thomas McKay Martin ended in April of 1996, and their son stayed to be raised by his father. So over the following years, Tina lived largely outside of the public eye. She ended up moving into assisted living, and it's there where she occasionally volunteered at a local church, keeping her presence in the community low but steady. By the late 2000s, however, there were signs she was ready to re-engage with her art. Bam Bam's original members had discussed the possibility of a reunion, and her bassist, Scott Ledgerwood, later shared that he and Tina had even begun writing new music together. Beyond that, Tina had her eyes on telling her own story in her own words. Plans were forming for a documentary film and a memoir titled Conversations with the Grunge Queen, to be directed by her son, Academy Award winner T.J. Martin.
You avoided it for years. The drill, the needles, the anxiety. At Nuvia Dental Implant Center.
But those projects would never see completion, because on October 10th, 2012, Tina Bell was found dead in her Las Vegas apartment. The official cause was cirrhosis of the liver, a disease tied to years of damage. She'd been suffering from depression and alcoholism for years, trying to soothe the purposeful erasure of her artistry and creation. But as sad as that was, that's not what makes her death disturbing. It's what happened after. No one knew she was dead. According to her son, the coroner estimated she had been dead for a couple of weeks before anyone found her. It wasn't until neighbors complained of the putrid smell that she was finally discovered. Let that sink in. This woman helped lay the foundation for grunge rock. And when she died, she was so alone that no one noticed for weeks, and it gets worse. When her son finally got to her apartment, almost everything she owned was gone, thrown away. Her lyrics, her poems, her diaries, her Bam Bam recordings, her videos, her memorabilia, all of it trashed, without her family even being notified. The only things that were left behind was a DVD player, a poster, and a chair. That's it. That's what was left of the woman who helped create one of the most celebrated music movements in American history. So the question is, why was she so alone that no one noticed her corpse? Or was she even alone at all? Because why were all her things thrown away? And why wasn't her family notified? Why was there such a rush to get rid of her things? Things that literally held her legacy and memories. Just like her career, her death also seemed like purposeful erasure. That's why there's barely any archival documents or recordings of Tina. Something or someone didn't want her discovered in life or death. But for those who knew her, the explanation didn't feel complete. Her son, Thomas McKay Jr., has said he believes his mother truly died from a broken heart, that the pain of seeing her creation thrive without her, while her own name was erased, weighed on her until it finally consumed her. For many, her death barely registered, just another lost life, not the loss of a groundbreaking artist. The erasure was complete. A Black woman who helped invent grunge had been pushed out of its history and left to die in obscurity. The uncomfortable truth is that grunge, as the world knows it, was built on the foundation Tina Bell helped lay. Yet her absence from its legacy is a reminder of how easily history can be rewritten to exclude those who don't fit the industry's image. Her death in 2012 closed the chapter on her life, but it also revealed just how deep her erasure ran. Even in death, she wasn't honored the way her contributions deserved. It's only now, years later, that her name is beginning to resurface, carried by researchers, fans, and her own family who refused to let her be forgotten. Tina Bell didn't just disappear, she was erased, and until her name is spoken with the same reverence as the men who came after her, the story of grunge will always be incomplete. So, lurkers, what do you think? Have you ever heard of Tina Bell? Are you familiar with her story and those other bands she helped inspire? Let me know down below.
As the parent of advanced, high-achieving children, you know they need to be challenged and learning advanced math.
This is Sound and Vision.
Dreamers from ground zero, waiting for the sun, still hasn't shown. Searching across the waters, what's that I see? Could it be the home of the final destroyer? Oh, this side of ground zero, doing time, receiving and fame. We share a few laughs between us, maybe our last. It's hard to tell, swimming in highballs on ground zero. Killer plans from Mars, giving up your Don't want to be a dead hero. Remarks from Guernsey hero. I can see the sun is coming home. Faced with opposition from mankind, that's not kind. So walking home to the final destroyer. Oh. Telephone rings with meal songs. Mailbox brings me your overdrawn. Account to the fine. Your account is overdrawn. courses in the she smiled in the mirror, then her pearly white disappeared. The young girl screaming the pain of labor. And now she curses. She curses in the rain and at the back of the bus. These curses in the useless childhood lies were exciting at the start of our relationship. Such as green mass trouble, and you know it. You're just a big tease. Don't use no more about the love. But forever, always remember, we need to talk to my dreams. When I feel the need to give you a call. Boss you up, boss you up, boss you up, boss you ready, boss you up, boss you up, boss you up, boss you ready, useless childhood lies were exciting. waiting at the start of our relationship will grow. Such times bring mass trouble, and you know it. You're just a big tease. Don't just go on down the road. But forever, always, you never believe you touching my dreams. When I feel the need to give you a call.